Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at a ferroliquid Bluetooth speaker. It's all thanks to that magnetic liquid inside, which strobes and reacts to the beat of sound. It was originally invented by a NASA scientist for the intended purpose of pumping rocket fuel without gravity affecting it. And now this essentially magnetic fluid is also found in objects like hard drives as well as telescopes to increase its durability as well as prevent dust from collecting. Apparently, it helps the fluid here remain magnetic for longer durations of time compared to conventional magnets, which can lose their magnetism, helping it withstand some more extreme conditions as well. There's actually a couple variants of these ferrofluid speakers floating around on Amazon, some slightly different designs. For example, this one kind of reminds me of an alarm clock. Another pretty similar one here that has a slightly more sharp angular look, and then there's yet another version which is enclosed in wood, but it actually has microphones that will react to the beat of music that you're playing externally. It doesn't actually have a real speaker that is playing back sound as is. It's more like a reactive device. However, the one that we have here today kind of reminds me of an egg, and instead of mounting it sideways, it's actually positioned on the very top. So perhaps you can see the effect a little bit more easily if you're higher than this device, and it does have an actual speaker or driver inside that can play back sound on this particular model using Bluetooth 5.0. It promises to last upwards of 8 hours on a full charge, and there's also a small stand that you get in the box as well that can display it more prominently on your desk with some LED lights inside. That being said, this is definitely more of a novelty speaker. It's all about that ferrofluid as opposed to it being hi-fi grade. There is no LDAC or aptX certification, for instance, but it's really not necessarily designed for having the best audio quality, but more about that visualization aspect. Kind of interesting. So the box here says Whale Fall, which might be the kind of brand behind this particular model, and on the inside here we do have a microfiber cleaning cloth to keep the glass dome there clean. There's a quick user guide, and there's also a kind of rubber pad, almost like a cup holder, that you can also stick the speaker on top of to prevent it from sliding around. Alternatively, you can use the wood stand that can be assembled using just a couple of pieces here, very similar to one of those moon lamps. And further down below here is just going to be a standard USB Type-C cable. And here's the wood stand completed. It has the Whalefall logo embedded onto it, and you can pop the egg speaker here on top if desired. But again, functionally, you can always just set it onto a table instead if preferred. Now, when it comes to the construction of the speaker, it's actually a little bit smaller than some of the ads and pictures make it seem. It's more close to a soda can size speaker, so rather small. You can definitely take it with you if you're traveling. That being said, because there is essentially oil as well as glass and liquid inside, you have to be a little bit more careful not to break it. So I suppose it is going to be a little bit more delicate compared to some rugged speakers out there which are waterproof, for example. Even though the glass here does feel pretty decent quality, although some of the chrome accents as well as the bottom piece here are made out of polycarbonate plastic, but not bad. There's a capacitive touch key here on the side that can be pressed for a few seconds to turn it on, and there are LED lights underneath that will glow to illuminate the ferrofluid even more. You can actually cycle through some of the patterns here, including a blue, a pink, as well as more of a white light. And the back here just features a simple USB Type-C charging port. And interestingly, the drivers for the speaker, which are advertised as omnidirectional 360 sound, are actually located on the very bottom of the unit because of course the top is the glass dome. So the sound is actually not pointing directly at you, but at least it is slightly elevated so you can still hear it being played back. I'll also mention that inside the dome, the texture on the floor here, so to speak, is actually slightly sparkly. So it reflects the light of the LED and just makes it look a little bit more interesting. And they will always snap into place using the hidden magnets that are inside the dome. So even if you're shaking this thing vigorously, it will still kind of go back into this form once you lie it flat. And even though this particular kit doesn't come with a magnet, you can use any standard magnet to just play around with the effect as well, including kind of sticking it onto the side of the glass dome, and you can see the ferrofluid here start to be attracted to it, creating some pretty interesting shapes. And once you release it, it will instantly snap itself into place. The back of the magnet, by the way, can also be used to kind of push around the tentacles. It will try and repel it. In fact, it can even hold a magnet up by itself if you lie it onto this glass dome surface, creating these small micro spikes, as you can tell there. And now we actually have a slightly stronger magnet which has several pieces stacked together, so the reaction is going to be more vigorous even without placing it directly onto the glass. You can tell the repelling side here will basically push all of the ferrofluid onto the other end of the glass dome, versus the other side here will start to make it start to be attracted to this magnet even though we're quite far away. As you can tell, they're into a single blob. Alternatively, we can get a little bit closer into a more vigorous size blob, so it is actually really fun to play around with. It's almost like performing a magic trick, and again, seeing how the spikes can vary so dramatically. And now moving into a demo of sound as well as the actual dancing happening as we crank up the volume here. Some takeaways there would be that the effect is actually a lot more fun and dynamic than I was expecting. It does indeed react to the sound of the music, unless the volume is at a really low level, that is, and just makes the experience of listening to music a lot more entertaining as you're watching the blob here dance around, almost like another form of an equalizer. And the camera might not be doing it justice here, but it's just so shiny and shimmery as you start staring at it. It really is quite mesmerizing, I have to say, even just tilting it around. Now, with that being said, as aforementioned, the actual speaker quality is just so-so. It does have a little bit more bass compared to your phone speaker with a larger driver inside at the end of the day, but compared to dedicated subwoofers and passive radiators, it doesn't necessarily give you the most punch in the world. At least it is relatively clean sounding, but again, if you are an audiophile, this may not be the best sounding speaker you've ever heard, but definitely good enough just for playing back some casual YouTube video clips. There's not too much problems here in terms of latency. That being said, you don't really have any on-device controls, so you have to still rely on the phone for adjusting things like volume as well as play pause. But again, for watching some short clips as well as just enjoying some music, Spotify streaming, it should be perfectly fine. It kind of is an alternative to some of those transparent speakers as well as the lyric art speakers that have a transparent display in them showing some of the lyrics as they're being played back. But this is, of course, in a slightly different form, but still interactive and entertaining as you're looking at it. Now, perhaps one other mode that I would like to see in maybe a future update would be kind of a glowing RGB pattern that slowly cycles through the different shades automatically or dances and reacts to the beat of the music. Since right now the RGB light can only be set to one color at a time and it's always on or off, so that part itself isn't really dancing, it's just the actual ferrofluid that is doing all the movement. So that is more or less it as far as this whale fall ferrofluid Bluetooth speaker. Definitely is a novelty gadget at the end of the day, but it is undeniably cool and just extremely fun to play around with. That might be worth it if you're looking for just a cool desk gadget, something as well maybe for folks that have seemingly found it all. This is going to be very different as a potential gift idea as well. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the ferrofluid Bluetooth speaker.